In Season 2, Episode 4 of House of the Dragon, we make our way across the Crownlands and get over to Duskendale, which is the seat of House Darklyn. And unfortunately, we see them catch a very big L in this episode early on. House Darklyn isn't represented a whole lot in a Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, but if you look back through the Westerosi history book, you actually see their fingerprints along a lot of really key moments in time. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of those in this video. Lord Darklyn's drug over to the chopping block there as he refuses to dip his cloak green. And Sir Criston asks him for some parting words, and that's when Lord Darklyn just shoots venom at him and tells him that you're not fit to wear the white cloak. Now, if you're just watching this casually, that may just seem like a throwaway line that someone that's about to have their head removed from their body may just just shoot like a barb or that last jab at the person that's going to be removing the head from the body. But if you take a look there in the history book of House Darklyn, you'll actually see that there may be more meaning behind those words than meets the eye. Okay, it's house sigil time, family crest time, however you want to put it. And no, that is not the Maryland state flag that we're looking at right now. That is the house sigil for House Darklyn. And I want to take a look here at the left portion of here, this red and white. That's not some arbitrary color palette or patterns or anything like that. That actually does have some meaning to it. And it would be those 7 white symbols that we're looking at. That's to represent the 7 Kingsguard knights that House Darklyn has contributed to the king and his royal family over the years. House Darklyn has contributed more Kingsguard knights from their family than any other family in Westeros history. So when we think about Lord Darklyn's final words to Sir Criston before his head's removed from his neck, you're not fit to wear the white cloak. Now that we look at it, do we really think that there's no weight behind those words? Is there a little bit more to it? I actually think that there is. Again, I know that could just be this last little jab, this little punch, whatever we can muster right before this guy takes our head off of our neck. But when you look at it from House Darklyn, they have a sense of honor when it comes to Kingsguard knights. They've contributed up to this point here, when Lord Darklyn's about to have his head removed from his neck, at least 3 Kingsguard knights. Okay, there's one during Aegon the Conqueror's time frame. There's one during Maelor's time frame, and there's actually another one present right now. That would be Sir Steffan Darklyn, that's currently serving on Rhaenyra's Queen's Guard. He was on Viserys' King's Guard. He was on Dragonstone whenever Rhaenyra went to Dragonstone, and then he bent the knee to her. So there's the third one right there. So this really makes me think about Lord Darklyn's final words to Sir Criston, telling him that you're not fit to wear the white cloak. Again, there's actual meaning behind those words. It's not just, hey, this is my last chance to insult this guy that's going to take my head from my body and behead me in front of all of my people in my castle. And then I'm sitting there watching these same people that I've defended all these years go and, color their banners green. Again, he looks at the Kingsguard with a sense of pride and honor, right? He's seen a lot of members from his family to this point, at least 3 go and take the white cloak, and he looks at Sir Criston as someone that's completely besmirching that. So I thought it was something that carried a little bit more weight than it was able to show in the show, just because we don't know the history of House Darklyn. They were once petty kings, but they've since been lords of a region there that's tough to have a lot of power because they fall into Crownlands and they instantly roll up to King's Landing. Okay, so it's time for me to nitpick a little bit here. And we're going to talk about this same sequence here at Duskendale with the Darklyns before I move on to just one other little moment in time with the Darklyns that I wanted to bring up that I think was some cool context. If we go back and we take a look at the scene whenever it first pans over to Duskendale and we see all the dead bodies in the ground, and then we see the shield in the ground that shows you the sigil right here. And I went back today to watch it just to make sure I wasn't seeing things. If you look at the shield, you can actually see those 7 white symbols to the left of the sigil there. Again, like I said before, those 7 white sigils represent the 7 Kingsguard knights that have come from House Darklyn. Now, at that present time, during the Dance of the Dragons, confirmed, we've actually only seen 3. Okay, we have one during the time of Aegon the Conqueror, another during the time of Maegor the Cruel, and then we have one actually in the present that was a part of Viserys' Kingsguard that was on Dragonstone whenever Rhaenyra was crowned, and now with Rhaenyra, that'd be Sir Steffan Darklyn. We just spoke about Sir Steffan. We only have 2 more that are actually have context and detail. The other 2 that make up the 7, there's just no detail about them. They're just essentially a number. The other one is confirmed to be during a certain place and time, but it's certainly after this moment. And for spoiler purposes, I'm just not going to get into him. You can, if you don't care, if you've read the books, you can go and check that out yourselves. But it's without question, after what's happening in this episode here, after Sir Criston sacks Duskendale, Now, the fifth member that we have some context and detail on has no specific time frame to when they were a Kingsguard Knight, so we don't know if it was before this episode or if it takes place after this episode. All we know is that for a very, very long period of time, he was the youngest Kingsguard Knight to serve up until Jaime Lannister. How about that? He was the youngest to serve. He was knighted on the battlefield. He wore his white cloak for 1 hour, and then he was killed. So that's that. That's all we know about that guy. We don't even know when he served. So it could be before the dance or it could be after the dance. But the thing I wanted to point out is that there's a 7 white sigils on the house sigil there on those shields, which would be very inaccurate just because we know not all 7 of those Kingsguard Knights, at least one of them in particular, did not serve yet. So that's just like a dumb, like little nitpicky thing that I noticed that I wanted to point out. Okay, so the next little moment in time that the Darklyns play a part in that I wanted to talk about is actually 150 years into the future, after the events of episode 4 that we just watched, and it takes place in 277 AC, which is only about 20 years before the events of Game of Thrones. So we're way closer than a Game of Thrones than we are to a House of the Dragon in this little moment. And this sad little part is called the Defiance of Duskendale. Well, in 277 AC, we had a young Lord Dennis Darklyn that just wanted to make a name for himself. Sick of getting pushed around, sick of seeing the big city of King's Landing take away some of the money that his port city could bring in. So what he tried to do is he wanted to negotiate some terms with Lord Tywin that was the hand of the king at the time. Lord Tywin said, no, shut the fuck up, you're not getting it. Well, little Lord Dennis Darklyn, that wasn't good enough for him. So he wanted Aerys, that Aerys right there, also known as the Mad King, Dany's father. Ever heard of him? Know what that guy's all about? He wants to talk to the king. King says, hey, you know what? I'm going to do what I want. I'm the king. I'm going to fucking ride down there. I'm going to put my spurs on, hop on my horse, and I'm going to ride down to them once petty kings, the Darklyns of Duskendale. Well, guess what? It's a trap. Okay, as soon as he walks through the doors there, they take Aerys, they kill at least one of his Kingsguard Knights, and they hold him for ransom. For about 6 months, half a year. They want better terms. You know what? I don't know if they've ever heard of the Reigns of Castamere. Lord Tywin doesn't do better terms. So what happens? How does the Mad King get out? Obviously, we know that the Mad King gets out because we know that he goes on to do some very heinous shit later on in his reign before Game of Thrones. You guys remember this old man? Huh? Barristan the Bold? Sir Barristan Selmy, once of King Robert's Kingsguard and then Dany's Queensguard. Well, you know what? He was OG there with Aerys' Kingsguard, even served under Jaehaerys' Kingsguard, which would be Aerys' father. Well, Sir Barristan's not done writing his pages in the Book of Brothers. He has more heroic deeds to add to it, and Barristan the Bold is not a name that he takes lightly. So what does he do? He says, hey, Lord Tywin, I know you're about to storm this bitch. I know you're done talking to this Obi-Wan jabroni, Lord Darklyn. I know you're ready to go. Just give me a day. So what's Sir Barristan do? He very clandestinely gets into the keep, into the city behind the walls, and he frees Aerys, and he rides out. And that's about it. He gets out. Want to take a guess as to what happens next? Well, I guess I already showed this picture, but, well, you get the point. That would be the Mad King. That would be the Darklyns. Maybe even some Hollards mixed in there. If you actually recall from A Clash of Kings, you guys remember Sir Dontos Hollard, the guy that Joffrey makes his fool? Yeah, they were the vassals, and I actually think like the only main vassal of House Darklyn. He puts all them to the sword, except for Sir Dontos. That is who Barristan, for whatever reason, feels bad for the kid. Pleads with the king, spare him his life. And the king does. Hey, after all, you did just break in here, you know, Tom Cruise style Mission Impossible and freed me. So that's what he did. Now, as for the rest of the Darklyns, you can probably take a wild guess as to what happens to them. Yeah, Aerys kills them all. He goes full Mad King. This is actually known as the moment in time where he completely goes unhinged. It's really after this that he like goes fully unkempt. The hair grows super long. The nails grow super long. He does not let anyone touch him. He doesn't really trust anybody at all except his Kingsguard. And I kind of understand to an extent. He was kidnapped for 6 months and probably beaten up and treated more poorly than he's ever been in his entire life. But yeah, he kills them all the Darklyns, not just the Lord, not just his wife. He did some really nasty shit to his wife because apparently it was the wife that really like was whispering into Lord Dennis's ear and telling him what to do. But he kills them all. The brothers, the uncles, anyone that had the last name Darklyn, done. Completely extinguished. House Darklyn is by all intents and purposes, completely wiped out and extinct at this point. All from Lord Dennis. So that's the sad end and conclusion to House Darklyn. I don't know if you guys thought you were going to see that watching this video here. I don't know if we'll ever get that on screen. They'd have to do Robert's Rebellion and like the things that led up to Robert's Rebellion for us to really see this on screen. And if they do Robert's Rebellion, I highly doubt they're going to go back and rewind in time enough to show us the events of Duskendale. I just don't think that that's what we would see. But this is obviously a very critical moment in the history of House Darklyn. The first one was more cool, right? All the Knights of the Kingsguard, all 7 of them. It's sad to say that whoever the 7th one was on that sigil would be the last one. Because Lord Dennis made sure that Aerys would make sure that there would not be another Darklyn as a Kingsguard Knight ever again, or one that would ever draw breath. So that's the Defiance of Duskendale. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, we saw House Darklyn pop up in the episode there the other night. The Red Dragon and the Gold Dragon. Phenomenal episode, by the way. That video is coming up in the next day or so, where I just recap it. But I wanted to talk about House Darklyn. We don't know enough about them. And again, like they have some really cool stories. Again, the Kingsguard thing's really cool, and all the members that they've had in the Kingsguard. And if you look at their sigil and see the parallels there with the white symbols, that's neat. I thought Lord Darklyn's last words to Kristen Cole had more meaning behind them than what, just the casual view would tell you that they did. And then again, the Defiance of Duskendale and, what leads up to the extinction of House Darklyn is exciting, entertaining, and also at the same time a little sad and a little dark, because you had one just, real pumped up young lord that just wanted to make a name for himself, and he ended up getting his whole family fucking killed. So that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment, let me know what you guys think about House Darklyn. Let me know what you think about those other houses in the Crownlands that don't get enough shine just because they're always in that shadow of King's Landing. There's a lot of cool stuff there. But please consider subscribing if you want to see more House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, or Song of Ice and Fire. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.